Hello, guys and gals, me Mudahar, and ladies and gentlemen, I did not expect to be talking about EDP445, but I would say like a few weeks ago, Mike Klum actually hit me up and told me that I made the final cut on this EDP documentary that he released the actual trailer of. Now, I was a little bit shocked. Mike Klum came to my house 3 years ago and interviewed me about EDP445. Now, again, to give you guys a little bit of a history and context into what's been going on, EDP445 is a character that was by far one of the most, I would say, meme-tastic characters on the internet. I mean, he made pretty simple videos, talked about the Philadelphia Eagles, so a lot of expletives, just your average meme on the internet. One fateful day in Bakersfield, California, it seems as if EDP decided to show up and, be a part of a sting operation, obviously without his consent. Now, it's crazy to say this, 5 years ago, 5 years, by the way, okay, time is flying. EDP445 was caught by these predator poachers, and basically, he was alleged to be going after a 13-year-old girl. And, when he was caught, instead of like running away he just stayed and participated in this entire sting operation. And he kind of held that, he was just there for a cupcake, right? Now, since then, EDP445 has basically just been nuked out of orbit. People have kind of forgotten about him, but I genuinely did keep tabs on him. Now, here's the thing, okay? I wish I could show you photos from the sting operation or like videos, but YouTube's terms of service has actually changed over the years, and it's totally fine. We'll discuss a lot of this stuff towards the latter half of this video, right? But anyways, EDP445 had this entirety of he had this documentary that was effectively coming out, and basically a trailer has dropped on Mike's channel where it looks really cinematic. It looks really nice. I mean, we are talking about something that is on par with like something you would see on Netflix or any major streaming service. I mean, the quality is through the roof, okay? Mike might take 3 to 4 years and bring out a documentary, but when he does, it looks like it slaps. Now, from what I've actually gathered about this documentary, it seems like EDP445 has effectively done all the things a lawyer will tell you not to do, which is when you're the target of an investigation, especially anything, you should shut the fuck up. EDP doesn't do that. I mean, watching this trailer, it's crazy how much stuff he effectively admits to. I mean, there are lines in this shit that blow my mind, okay? He pretty much almost seems to justify going after a 13-year-old, Sometimes, when it has to be stated so honestly, the easiest part of content creation is literally not diddling children, okay? That's the easiest part, There's never a green goblin mask that I have to look to in the corner and it's don't do it. Don't go near there. You don't have to one thing that I find really weird about these kind of people, it's not just EDP445, it's anytime you find online predators. To me, it makes me wonder, what the thought process for somebody like that is. You look at somebody that is a kid at the end of the day, and you just think somebody that, is literally a kid. You have nothing in common with them. How can you be attracted to somebody that is a literal child? And then, of course, you start to see people like EDP, which, even despite, how he looked, I always thought that EDP at least was charismatic enough to be going after people in his own age bracket. But it doesn't seem that way, okay? As far as I have been able to see, as far as I can reasonably believe, EDP is an actual danger to human society, right? He actually is dangerous to children around you. When you take away all the memes and the laughs, this guy is a dangerous dude. So anyways, Mike Klum actually ended up coming over to my place 3 years ago, and he did an interview at my house. And inside this interview, he asked me a bunch of questions about EDP. And one thing I won't forget is he had this blue binder that he gave me during the fucking filming. And it was just pictures of his messages. But I saw 30 photos of EDP sending shit pics. I literally that day saw some of the filthiest images imaginable, I have never seen fecal matter that was released at that levels of volumes. It honestly shocks me about like what EDP's physiology is, because when I opened this binder, there was literally one image where it looked like a football was released out of a dude's anus, and then he still had enough shit left inside him to leave like a puree on the side. Sorry if that sounds disgusting, but these are images that are like burned into my head. I remember distinctly, like right after, my parents were actually over at my house, and my mom was asking, "What's that about? Is that like a TV thing, Muda?" And I was like, "No, Ma, that was another YouTuber asking me about EDP445. And my mom's like, "Oh, what's an EDP445? So I walked her through that rabbit hole, saw her eyes widen open, regretting that she even asked me. And then I even told her about the shit. I told everyone in my life that I saw EDP's crap pictures. And honestly, describing them, it's one of those things where, like, once you see it, it's burned into your fucking retinas. It's photographically memorized into your head. Give me a minute. So anyways, EDP is part of this, like, documentary, and again, ultimately, at the end of the day, it's a cinematic affair, which is coming out, I guess, in, like, August. It's coming out very soon. And honestly, I'm more excited for this shit than I would ever be, like, the Odyssey or, like, a new Spider-Man movie or whatever the fuck that's out there, because ultimately, there seems to be a lot of new stuff that's coming out with this documentary, a lot of new information about him. And ultimately, at the end of the day, he says really fucked up shit. Like, this is one line that blows me away.
Do you think you wanted to have with a 13-year-old?
I mean, the reason why I wanted to have with a 13-year-old is already clear.
What's so clear about that, Brian? Like, what's actually, it is kind of like I said earlier, I don't understand the people behind it, but I guess at this point, EDP's sort of given up. Now, if you've been following anything about EDP, obviously, the last few years haven't been exactly too kind to him. Obviously, ever since the story kind of broke, YouTube, I guess, took down his channel. He was basically removed from, like, all forms of, like, social media out there. To the point where the last few things that he had were, like, a few websites and basically showing up on places like Cameo. And to be honest with you, the moment I guess you start doing Cameo is when you kind of know, it's like your online time is done, okay? It's time to log out, and it's time to return to, like, normal human life, if that makes any sense. But yeah, EDP's up there, sitting there with, like, a nearly 5-star review. You got people going like, "Great job! Great job, pal!" Again, I feel like the reality of this is that there's still always going to be a continuum. One thing that I've learned about the internet, it doesn't matter how fucked up of a person you are. It doesn't matter if, like, you could literally be an actual fucking murderer on the internet, and as long as you just keep posting through it, and as long as you just, like, as long as you exist, you are basically an uncancelable person. Now, EDP obviously isn't as popular as he was before, but one of the reasons why I actually stuck out from not talking about EDP as much was that he's still actually active in the community, right? For instance, EDP does actually have a real channel from, like, again, this is a channel that's been down, it's been up, it's just basically him, right? It's actually him existing. Now, he's only got like 5,000 something subscribers, so you might be sitting there wondering, okay, obviously his reach is effectively gone. But the thing is, these videos still get viewed thousands upon thousands of times. And one thing I didn't actually realize too while making this video, because I knew he existed, but I didn't know that EDP was still armed and still had firearms available. I feel like if you're this guy, I feel like if you're EDP, you probably shouldn't be allowed to own firearms whatsoever. And I honestly thought in the United States, you probably wouldn't be allowed to own any of this stuff because you could be a convicted felon. But then I remember, EDP's never actually been convicted at all. Sure, the comment sections might be filled with, "We are not forgetting, we are legion, expectus patronum. Bro is intimidating nobody. Those firearms are his only friends." That is a brutal comment section, Jesus Christ. When the comment section exists to solely roast you, that's also another sign to just give it up and go. But the reason why EDP was never arrested is obviously, if we go back to the original sting operation, obviously the people behind it, which would be, the Alex Rosen, for instance, and, like, the Predator poachers, at the time they were basically hunting down EDP, they had kind of tried to make content out of it, right? Like, they wanted to I remember distinctly when the EDP, like, stuff was coming out, There was like, this whole hype up of like, hey, we're going to have this live stream over here, get ready, we'll sign in. There was kind of a push towards the monetization aspect of this story, which I feel like there's a huge market now, obviously, of people that are doing predator poaching content. But and this is where it gets really murky, right? Like obviously if you want to make it big on the platform, just hunt predators. They're like the easiest people to go after. You can be as morally fucked up as possible, but as long as your enemy is a child predator, it doesn't matter if you got a few murders under your belt, you're still technically above that pile of shit in society. So ultimately, when it came out to this situation, when they did their first sting operation and EDP walked away, they didn't actually have law enforcement over there. They didn't actually have cops present during the sting operation. You know how you watch like To Catch a Predator, and after like, Chris Hansen's done asking the person about their shit, the guy leaves the house, and then the cops in the ghillie suits jump out of nowhere and basically grab the motherfucker. That didn't happen here. So you can even see like Rosen at the time followed up for a few days with, again, the Bakersfield Sheriff Department and left a message for the detective. And obviously, since they didn't work with law enforcement at the time, EDP got away. Like, it was a sting operation where, again, you think that the kind of shit this guy admits to, maybe the cops would have been involved. But because the investigation wasn't done right, ultimately that let people like fucking EDP get away with, obviously, one of the most heinous crimes somebody could do. That's why we have to use words like alleged. I know a lot of people, since the inception of me using that word, are like, man, why are you using the word alleged? I mean, listen, I'm not giving anybody like a pass to potentially sue me or something of that nature, right? At the end of the day, it is just an allegation. It would have been a conviction. It would have been something if he was formally charged, if he was taken to court over this kind of stuff. And again, a court ruled and found and judged him of these crimes, which unfortunately has not fucking happened. One of the things that I cannot sort of stand are like these predator groups, like, for instance, Dads Against Predators, who even law enforcement agencies have talked mad like fucking shit on them, mostly because people like this exist to ruin entire cases, right? Now, this is a clip from a predator hunt. I can't show you this. I can show you a screenshot because literally this clip I thought is actually like death snuff footage. And I'll tell you why. You see those pumpkins in the back? They confronted this predator, pushed him around, so you're already bringing assault charges into a story. And then if you grab that pumpkin, for instance, as you can see the hand right over there, that pumpkin was grabbed and thrown over this guy's head. I almost thought this man died on fucking camera because of this, right? And then ultimately, the end of the day, look, imagine if this guy is actually a sick child predator. Well, you didn't work with the cops, or at least I didn't think you worked with the cops. And even if you did, that doesn't give you the right to grab shit and assault the guy on camera for views, right? Because ultimately, yes, it probably draws in views, probably draws in like actual revenue. But at the end of the day, this man gets like a sterling out on a fucking satin pillow. And that is the kind of shit that drives me insane. It's one of the reasons why I don't cover a lot of these predator hunts, unless, of course, there are people that literally do work with law enforcement, which a lot of people who do hunt for predators on the internet do. Like people like Skeeter Gene, people like the predator poachers, individuals like Schlepp, for instance, a lot of the people that are looking for creepers in the Roblox, Minecraft, like fucking Fortnite circuit, if you will. Those are the people that I actually have a vast amount of respect for, because not only do they make the entertaining content out of this by hunting a sick child predator, but before the content is made, obviously the effort to put them in jail is really the first and foremost part of the story. Now, obviously, EDP445 still exists on the internet, and obviously he'll ask people, yo, how's everybody doing? Which is pretty brave, after the fucking shit that he got brought out for. It's like, dog, why would you be asking about disloyal, fool-made, bitch-ass punks when you're the one that was caught literally looking for cupcakes, okay? Literally trolling around for people that haven't even entered puberty yet. It's fucking insane to me that if anybody would be caught for the kind of shit EDP was caught, he would literally slither into nothing and just not exist, okay? He would literally, I'm not saying, anything drastic. I mean, literally, Just get like a fucking janitorial job somewhere, get like some data entry job somewhere and be hidden entirely from society. He could probably do that. Get like a little studio apartment, get like some rinky-dink part-time job, and literally just do like subsistence living at that point. Because ultimately, that's kind of the only future that he has. Now, obviously, because that EDP is literally still active on YouTube, and again, I'm not looking at the monetization aspect. I don't think EDP is making anything worthwhile or anything close to what he used to be making pre-Cupcake incident. But the reality is, when you are on the internet, one thing that does fuck with me is that this guy is still like active. Like when you take away every single joke in the situation, you remember to yourself, this guy is actually an active danger, not just on the internet, but in his immediate like surrounding. And that's one of those things where like it really fucks with me when I see EDP sort of pop up again, because I think to myself, look, about a year or two ago, I realized that he had like, I think late stage kidney disease. So I was like, oh, it's probably God taking out the trash at that point, but no, he's still actually here. And unfortunately, because he's active on these platforms, which, who knows, by the time I upload this video, YouTube could even take this channel down or whatnot, this person is still an active threat on the platform, still an active threat on the internet. Now, is his reach as substantial as it once was? No, but he's still a fucking decently, like, active threat, I would say. And ultimately, at the end of the day, man, I actually can't wait to see this Mike Klum documentary, because there is supposedly a lot of really, really big like things that have come out. All right, apparently there's still an investigation, and honestly, I think based on what I've heard, this guy could actually open up new charges on EDP, and this guy could actually get arrested. Like EDP might actually face prison time before his actual time is over in this mortal coil. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, wanted to go back and relive the EDP hell, but I'll be real, once I saw that documentary pop up on Mike's channel, the trailer, all the shit pics came back. This man makes so many poo coils. This man's physiology has produced some of the most awful, off-putting craps that I've seen, that they're burned into my brains, okay? The fact that somebody that was potentially underage may have seen that is actually incredibly, like, that if I'm traumatized as a man in his 30s after seeing that shit, I can't imagine what a child must be fucking going through, you know what I mean? Like, goddamn, crazy shit. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it if you dislike it, I am out.